Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to just imagine something for a second. Think about something incredibly valuable that you are holding in your hands right now. But there's a huge catch. If you just hold on to it, it's inevitably going to slip right through your fingers. It'll get lost, it'll decay, or it'll simply run out, right? That is the universal dilemma of depreciation. It's the inescapable reality of literally everything we own, our physical wealth, our energy, and honestly, most importantly, our time. They all eventually just fade. But what if there was a way to actually stop that decay? What if you could take those exact same fleeting assets, put them in exactly the right place, and not only protect them from rotting away, but actually multiply their value exponentially?
So, would you want to miss an opportunity like that? No way, right? Of course not. Now, in the modern financial world of stocks and crypto, an investment that guarantees absolute protection of your principal while offering literally infinite returns, yeah, that sounds like a total scam. But in today's explainer, we're looking at a fascinating piece of literature that pitches exactly this, what you might call a cosmic investment strategy. We are exploring a really profound concept drawn from a text known as the Sixth Word, or Alton Jesus. The text asks the reader to imagine an opportunity where they can protect their rapidly decaying life assets and massively grow them into something permanent. It fundamentally frames human life and resources not as things to be hoarded and eventually lost, but as capital just waiting to be brilliantly invested.
So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the core terminology the text uses. The source text describes this ultimate transaction as selling oneself and wealth to Allah. Now, just to be super clear, we're neutrally exploring this as a profound philosophical framework. This isn't some literal commercial transaction where money is changing hands. Rather, it is an incredibly powerful metaphor for deep spiritual trust and devotion. It represents a massive shift in mindset. Acting with a divine consciousness, recognizing that your life and resources are entrusted to you, and then dedicating them to a higher purpose. By making this metaphorical sale, the text basically argues that a person completely transforms their transient mortal life into something of eternal, lasting value.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer scale of the return. The source text actually formally outlines 5 distinct degrees of what it calls profit within profit that come from this spiritual transaction. It's basically a multi-tiered return on investment. However, for our explainers today, we're going to focus on just the first 3 of these profits, because as the text itself suggests, these first 3 alone are more than enough to demonstrate the staggering magnitude and brilliance of this entire spiritual framework.
Let's break down this cosmic ROI, starting with Profit 1, Eternal Fruits.
The text uses some seriously brilliant economic vocabulary here. It suggests that while time is temporary and usually just vanishes into the past, utilizing it for a higher purpose actually yields fruits that last forever. Look at this list of everyday, seemingly ordinary actions for a second. A simple good deed for a neighbor, a standard daily prayer, earning a halal or honest income through your hard work, or maybe even just having a genuinely beautiful intention in your heart before you do something. From the outside, these things look small, routine, almost invisible, right? But the source text argues that through the lens of this spiritual investment, these fleeting moments are miraculously transformed. You are literally turning the temporary currency of daily life into everlasting wealth, banked permanently in the afterlife.
And the investment scales up incredibly in the second stage. Profit 2, the price of paradise. If the first profit was all about preserving small actions, this second profit is really about the staggering asymmetry of the overall payout. Just think about human limitations for a minute. We have a strictly limited lifespan. Maybe 80 or 90 years if we're really lucky. We have restricted physical resources, limited energy, limited means, the whole shebang. Yet, in this framework, an individual takes those highly finite, restricted resources and basically trades them for an eternal, infinite return. The source text points out that this vastly disproportionate return on investment is a direct illustration of the vastness of divine mercy. It's a trade where the input is, quite frankly, mathematically microscopic compared to the infinite scale of the reward.
Now we shift from the grand concepts of the afterlife right back down into the immediate present moment with Profit 3, Valued Senses. To truly understand how this works in practice, the text provides a fascinating case study, 2 different intellects.
The text guides us to look really closely at one specific human faculty here, the human mind. How does this investment strategy fundamentally change how our brains actually operate? It argues that by making this spiritual dedication, our senses and our intellect stop being just biological tools and become elevated instruments of purpose. Let's look at side A. Here, we have the intellect working solely for the self, completely without that higher divine trust. When the mind is just left to its own devices, what does it actually do? Well, the text notes it constantly burdens the person. It becomes this machine that endlessly downloads the bitter regrets of the past and projects all the terrifying fears of the future. And the sheer weight of this anxiety, it forces the person to seek relief through empty distractions, fleeting entertainment, or even addictions, just to escape their own thoughts. But then, look at side B. When that exact same intellect is working for Allah, when it's invested in that higher purpose, it transforms entirely. The text describes it so beautifully as becoming a luminous key. It stops being a heavy burden and starts reading the universe like an open book, constantly seeking out hidden wisdom and sharply separating right from wrong.
Which brings us to a brilliantly distilled quote derived straight from the text's philosophy. The same intellect, depending on intention, becomes either a burden or a guide. Think about that. It is the exact same hardware, the exact same brain, but the intention behind it, who you've actually sold or entrusted its purpose to, dictates whether it's going to crush you under the weight of existential dread or light up your path through life. It's just a fascinating psychological observation wrapped in a really profound spiritual metaphor.
Having seen this theoretical breakdown, it's time to pivot to a personal audit. Where is your investment? You know, it's one thing to read a philosophical text, but the true value of an explainer like this is turning that analytical lens directly back onto our own lives. Let's walk through this reflective checklist inspired directly by the source material. How are you spending the incredible currency of your mind today? Are you draining your mental energy on side A? Is it all tied up in constant comparison with others? Is it generating daily, paralyzing anxiety about tomorrow? Are you numbing it with empty distractions and mindless scrolling? Or, actually, are you investing it on side B? Are you actively using it to seek a deeper understanding of the world around you and figuring out how to be truly useful to others? This right here is the daily, practical reality of the investment the text is talking about.
And that brings us to the core, empowering thesis of this entire framework from the sixth word. The text impartially but firmly concludes that surrendering your trust to God, making that metaphorical sale we talked about, is absolutely not about abandoning your life. It is not about destroying your abilities, suppressing your intellect, or somehow ignoring the real world. Actually, it is the exact opposite. It's about taking your time, your wealth, and your talents, and raising them to their absolute highest possible value. It's about ensuring that nothing you have goes to waste.
Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought taken straight from the spirit of the text. You have this finite capital, your mind, your emotions, your resources, your fleeting time. If this framework holds true, if dedicating them to a higher purpose multiplies their worth exponentially and eternally, then the only question left for you to answer today is this: which of your features' value do you want to increase first? Take a real moment to think about that, and we'll see you in the next explainer.